Hello vintage outboard motor fans, this is T-Mike here in South Louisiana making another video today. Today's video is going to be how to measure the components of an ignition magneto before I do the rebuild on it. Make sure all my components are good. That means the coils, measuring the coils and measuring the condensers before I put them in my magneto to make sure they're good. So this is for restore number 100. It's 1954 5.5 horsepower CD10 is the rebuild on it. And the tune-up kit I'm using is Tuneup Kit 18-5006 Sierra. I am using some used coils that I've taken off of another motor. They should work. So to do this testing, we're going to need a fluke meter. Okay, this is fluke 177 multimeter. That's to measure the coils. To measure the condensers, we need a capacitance tester. This is a Honeywell A6013L. So I've got the carb in the chem dip for cleaning and rebuilding. I've got the rest of the motor sitting over here ready to get put back together. But first I'm going to rebuild the magneto and test my components. So if everybody's ready, here we go. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is measure my coils. Alright, so as I've said in other videos, there are two windings inside of this coil. Alright, the primary winding goes across these two leads. That's the primary winding. Secondary winding is from any lead to the output of the spark wire. So on these two leads we should get between 1 and 3 ohms, and from any lead to here we should get between 3,000 and 10,000 ohms. So I'm going to set my ohm meter to ohms. And I'm going to go across the primary winding. Across the two spade conduct leads. And I said between 1 and 3 ohms. And I've got 2.7, 2.9 ohms. Alright. So that's a good primary winding. Now let's go from either lead to the tip inside the spark boot lead. And I've got 3,395 ohms. That's between 3,000 and 10,000 ohms. So that's a good coil. Let's check the other coil. Here's my other coil. Across the two spade tips. Okay. I've got 2.0, 2.2. It's fluctuating, but it's between 1 and 3 ohms. Alright, now I'm going to go from either lead to the tip inside the spark plug boot. And I've got 3,342 ohms. That's between 3,000 and 10,000 ohms. Alright. So, coils are good. Now let's check our condensers with my Honeywell A6013L capacitance tester. I'm going to put it on the 2 ohm scale, the 2 microfarad scales. It measures it in microfarads. And I'm going to go from the spade tip to the housing. All right, and I see 0.295 microfarads, which is good. That's a capacitance reading. Now I'm going to measure the other capacitor, and I see 2.9. It's another good capacitance reading. So I have verified that my condensers and my coils are good. Now I'm going to rebuild the Magneto, put all the components together, and I'm going to show you how to test the wiring and the coils and condensers after this is complete. So stay tuned for that. Okay, I've got it all rebuilt, all the components, coils, points, condensers, spark plug wires. I've got it all rebuilt. Now let's go over the wiring check again. Same thing as before. Fluke ohm meter, set it on ohms. We'll take, with the Magneto plate facing you, this is the top coil. So the primary winding are the two windings on the two spade tips coming off the coil. It measures 2.1 ohms, 2 ohms. That's between 1 and 3 ohms, so it's good. Now, if we go out to measure the secondary winding, we can't get in the boot like we did before. We got to get at the end of the wire. So I should get between 3 and 10,000 ohms, and there's my 3,415 ohms. And of course I won't get anything on the end of the other wire. Nothing. So this is the top spark wire. Now we'll check the other coil. We knew it was good before we put it in, but we'll check it again. Here's the primary winding. 2.1 ohms, 2 ohms. It's good. And we'll go out to the end of the other lead on the spark plug for the most important reading, 3,365 ohms. So I know my coil is good now and my spark wires are good because it measured, all the ohms measured out. Now we can test again the capacitor with my Honeitech A60 13L. Just go to spade tip of the condenser to the ground. Set it on 2 microfarads and got 2.94. So it's still good. Check the other condenser to ground and to the spade tip, and 2.89. It's good. So that's how you test and measure your ignition components on an ignition Magneto for a 1954 5.5 horsepower with Johnson. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. See you next time. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Here at T Mike's Vintage Outboards, we're doing it one motor at a time. Please click on subscribe. I guarantee to provide weekly videos. Au revoir mes amis, and laissez les bon temps rouler.